to get killed.
Yeah.
I gotta get in there.
Just so everyone is aware, we are unmuted now and live on YouTube.
Okay,
Early.
we're live, huh?
Live, okay.
Just so you know, so they can.
Be careful what you say, huh?
Can you make sure that Amanda, she's worried about having,
Amanda, are you on?
I am on, and
Okay.
it's not too bad out my way right now, but it was kind of sketchy there in the beginning. So I asked Fred just in case to take some notes for me if I all of a
Okay.
sudden went out.
Okay, thanks, Amanda.
Yep.
okay, I guess we're ready. Meeting will please come to order. Minutes to approve.
Move them.
Second.
Any discussion? If not, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Appointments, I'd like a motion for Mr. Ryan Foley.
Move it. Second.
Any discussion on the motion? Please.
My only discussion point is for the sole reason that, I won't be supporting this. I think Todd Delaney should be relooked at and there'd be continuity on the Civil Service Commission. My understanding is that, he was made aware that there would not be majority support for him. And I think the whether it's realistic or it's not, the Republican caucus picked this candidate. And for that reason, I won't be supporting it.
Anything else, anybody? If not, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Carried. Okay, presentation, Lynn and Mary Beth, please. Floor is yours.
All right, thank you. So I told Hans I got 2 hours of sleep last night, so I'm gonna do the best I can do today.
Don't yawn.
I'll try not to. So presentation is on the screen, but we wanted to talk about sales tax on the motor fuel. So that's what this presentation is about. So if we look at the first slide, I think you're all aware, September 1st would be the first day that we can implement the change. We would have to elect to change from a percentage method to a cents per gallon. And then, so currently we're charging 4% of the base price on fuel. My understanding is we can go to a cents per gallon based on a $2 rate, a $3 rate, or a $4 rate. So we would charge 8 cents per gallon, 12 cents per gallon, or 16 cents per gallon.
Is that the cap? We could charge no more? Is that what you're saying? An 8 or 12 or 16% cap?
8 or 12 or 16 cent cap.
Okay.
So, and I'll go through some numbers, kind of give you an idea of what it might look like in a little bit here. And then just a reminder that the city of Auburn has a preemption on sales tax. So whatever this body decides on with regard to sales tax, it will not affect the city of Auburn's rates
Unless they take it.
unless they take action in their own council meeting. So as far as the process, which is on the next slide, to enact the change. Amanda, can you flip? There we go. So the legislature would adopt a resolution to elect a cents per gallon methodology for motor fuel tax. And then Lucky Fred gets to submit that resolution to New York State prior to July 31st, which would allow us to change the rate for September 1st. The resolution would have to establish the rate, whether it's 8, 12, or 16 cents per gallon. And then you would also have to set a sunset date. So my understanding is that would sunset either on a sales tax quarter or it would sunset at 12/31/22. The state is allowing a 12/31/22 sunset. So this body, when they present that resolution and adopt it, if you so choose, would have to establish that rate and the sunset date. Any questions on that part?
I thought we were talking about dropping the sales tax.
Right, so we would drop it by changing to the cents per gallon and then establishing the cents per gallon.
Right,
So-
we can't drop to zero, Andy, that's not an option.
That's not an option. So And in my numbers,
Isn't that what other?
New York State could do it. The other counties cannot do
they
it.
can't do it. They can drop it. So
So what did other counties drop to?
I think it's all over the map a little bit. I think some were at 8 and some were at 12. Is that correct, Lynn?
So then the general public is kind of being hoodwinked, thinking that these counties dropped their fuel sales tax when really they didn't.
They did.
Well, they
They
did.
capped it.
What's the price? If the price is $4 a gallon here, it'd be 4 times 4 would be 16 cents, right? If we were leaving it at the 4%.
Yeah.
So if you went to 8 cents, you're saving 8 cents, right? The difference between 8 and 16. So the price right now is at 5. So clearly we're collecting 20 cents per gallon.
Amanda, can you go to
So
the
it's New York
next slide?
State,
after
but we
that?
can't go to 0. New York State is not allowing
So
that.
no county has gone to zero.
Correct.
So if you look at this, Andy, I did this before we were at $5 a gallon, but at 4% on $4.80 a gallon, we're collecting 19 cents in sales tax. So if we go with that $2 cap, we're at 8 cents a gallon. So if we say, and I know some of us have bigger vehicles, so 16 gallons isn't the real number that some people fill their tanks with. But if you put 16 gallons of gas in your tank on a fill up, it would save you $1.79. And the $2 is the lowest we can go.
Which is
So-
8 cents.
The 8
Right.
cents.
Okay.
We can't go lower than capping it at 8 cents.
Correct.
Because it's really, Elaine, actually what it is it's $2 times what is your current sales tax rate? 4%.
Right.
So some of the counties, it is different. They have different numbers because they had different sales tax rates than 4%. So when they go to do this, it's coming out a little bit different options for them than us.
Mr. Basile.
Yes, so the Oswego and Wayne that flank either side of us, they did the sales tax. I'd kind of like to know what they did along with the state, because I just drove, so in Oswego to the east of me was $4.99 a gallon. All right, now, 3 weeks ago, it was a little bit cheaper, 4 weeks ago. Cayuga County, where I just purchased gas at Route 38 and 104, was $4.94. It was actually 5 cents cheaper. And Wayne County, to the west of me, the 104 store was the exact same price, $4.94. So they all did something along with the state to change their sales tax. But 3 weeks later, they're all paying the same or more than what we're paying here in Cayuga County. And so I know that's upsetting to the residents, but this was just a drive-by survey of 3 gas stations on 104 that connect.
Yeah. And it
So
also,
unfortunately, I mean, one, it comes down to communication to that sales tax. So if we want Quick Fill to charge a different sales tax rate, the state has to communicate that with Quick Fill. Do they get their pumps all, calibrated to that rate? That's a job that they have to do. And then the price of whatever fuel they're purchasing is what's driving their cost that they're adding the sales tax on. Now, I don't know
Yeah.
which gas station is getting the better deal on whatever fuel they
So
purchase.
one was a quick fill, one was a Sunoco. So the quick fill was in Oswego, the Sunoco was in Cayuga County, and the Wayne County was a truck stop that had a Sunoco sign. And 3 weeks ago, they were all 15 cents or something less than us. We haven't had an opportunity to come around to what we want to do. And I'm not saying I'm not supporting this, but this was a physical drive-by just before this meeting.
I can tell you I have the sheet. Oswego's is 12 cents is their cash gallon and Wayne is 8 cents. But you're exactly right. There's no guarantee
There's no
that any of this
guarantee.
gets passed through to the consumer.
To the consumer.
No, there's no guarantee because as you know, with gas, you can't see the prices. They're buried.
Right.
It's not like your Walmart tax, your receipt, you see the sales tax at the bottom. So I mean, the profit, whether it's going to the gas company or it's going to the gas station, they want people's business. So, right, what do people do? Lower prices, get more business. So they're trying to stay competitive, but.
And
they don't have to
ultimately,
drop it.
there's so many pieces to that puzzle and it's very hard. You're never gonna be able to know for sure exactly what makes up all those pieces of that price.
Right, but I'm just saying, and so I Googled that they were, Wayne County and Oswego County had participated in the county gas tax cap. I didn't find what that number was. We're hearing now that 12 cents was,
Right, and I don't.
and like I said, 3 weeks ago, they were down.
Mhm.
It didn't take 3 weeks for them to get back up to be equal to
Cayuga.
or around the same as what this Cayuga County gas station, on the same highway, just
And my gut is.
12 miles one way.
The city is not, right now, has not voted on a change. So if the city doesn't make the change, my gut is that you go to Genoa and the price probably isn't gonna be much different than the city of Auburn. That's my gut. I don't know. I mean,
City was 480 something.
Lydia?
And that was, thank you, and that was the point that I was going to make. We can reduce the tax impact, but then they can raise the price and bring it back up, and then it becomes profit for them and a loss for us. We lose revenue.
correct.
And sorry, may I ask another question? Do any of the legislators who support the city know why the city has no interest in dropping the tax?
I don't. Can't answer that right now. I can get that answer for you, Lydia.
I don't know that it'll be important, but I was just curious.
Do we know for sure that they said absolutely we're not going to?
I don't know that for
They're
sure.
waiting to see what the county will do? I don't
I don't know.
It has to be true.
They passed their budget without it.
Of course.
They passed their budget.
Uh-huh.
I
Oh,
think
that
that's
might be the reason that they've already budgeted for it and.
We did, when we started this discussion, Lynn, myself, Fred, when we started this discussion to kind of prepare this presentation, we did reach out to the city and say, we're starting the discussion. So just so you're prepared, because, I'm a city resident, right? So if the rest of the county's getting a tax break on the gas, I want it too, right? But, so we wanted to kind of give them the heads up, and we did, but.
I wondered, when did the county start its discussions? Because as the minority leader, the Democratic caucus never had feedback from our chairperson. And when we were meeting in leadership with others, it was never an agenda item. So until we saw an email, was the first time that 6 members of this legislature were aware that there were even conversations happening. So I'm curious about the timeline in terms of transparency for everybody in the room.
May I take
Everybody
that
who's
to that?
legislating.
Is that a requirement? Do we have to know everything that goes on in each caucus?
It is,
And I'm not trying to be, right? I'm just saying,
no,
it
you-
seems to me like the
you don't,
reason
but
why we
there's
have separate
each
caucuses.
caucus, the minority and the majority leader don't have to share information, but in a collaborative government, that has been the tradition here. It's also been the tradition for the chairperson to go to each leader to say, this is what's happening. It was also when we were in leadership meetings, it was the premise of leadership meetings. But we did not engage in any discussions with anybody.
Neither did we. So we weren't hiding anything from you. Everybody was caught off guard. Everybody that I talked to said, there's no hurry. We can do this anytime, until we found out from the state and from Fred, this has to be done by the quarter. So we weren't hiding anything from you at all, because we weren't discussing it.
Fred's fault. Let's just go with that.
That's the way it was.
Me,
If we were going to discuss it and we wanted to do something, we certainly would have included it.
Right. It's not a matter of blame, or it's about all of our relationships as legislators. I would certainly hope that we always would be talking with each other about priorities and concerns in our caucus. We started the year with sharing, and the Democratic caucus put those in writing, sharing our goals and initiatives and ideas for the year. I wouldn't want to go forward with the idea that we don't have to talk with each other.
Well, I don't want the public that's listening to this to think that we're not talking to you people, because we are. We met yesterday for a half hour. We went through 5 different things. We're all on the same page. We are not trying to hide anything from you. You're part of us. So the thought that we're trying to hide something upsets me. So that's not the way it should be.
Chairperson.
I guess I get to speak too. So I'll share part of the blame, whatever there is, okay? I had some discussions with Mary Beth, with Lynn, just trying to get a handle on this thing. We didn't realize that there was, a particular date and all this and that, and that's the way it is. Andy was next.
Well, the only thing I want to what your point was, Jim, about the fuel prices. I mean, because some people may not realize this, but you take a small gas station, let's say, not necessarily a city. You get a 3,500 gallon tanker truck that fills today. The price of gas goes up 20 cents on the board tonight. They're raising their price. Okay, because the board went up. They still paid 20 cents less for that tanker load that they just put in there yesterday. So the sales tax is, I'm for it. I mean, my opinion, I just don't do away with tax on, especially like you mentioned here a few months ago, like heating oil. I mean, that's something that's an essential for life. If you use heating oil, propane, something, you can't live if your house is freezing, you're gonna die. Okay, gas, well, that's still kind of essential too, if you want to get to work. So I'm all for doing something with the tax thing. Well, let's also remember, like you just pointed out, well, how the hell did it go up 20 cents? Well, because when it goes up, that's what they do. Because that's the world we live in. So, but it didn't cost them that 20 cents that they put it in there yesterday. So when the gas companies cry, or the gas stations cry, just remember that too, because I got a little issue with my local one that seems to want to talk to you, but not me. So,
And I certainly don't think the message is there's this conspiracy to hide things.
Right.
I really don't.
That's
feel
not
that
my
at all.
point. The
No,
point is,
but-
we
But
did not
I
have.
did get a call from a constituent who, and I don't get them that often, who said, gee, if other counties had taken this action, why hadn't Cayuga? And then we started to investigate and then realized there was some deadline that somehow passed us by. So that's really more just, and I don't know who knew, Dave, and, again, that's, we're looking at, if we're gonna enact this a September date, and that's just how it is. But I did get a call, how come Onondaga did it and you guys didn't?
I think that's what started the whole thing, because I think all of us got calls and emails. And that's what started us talking, not knowing again that they had to be done by the quarters.
No said on the subject. Let's get on with the presentation, please.
So Amanda, can you go back to the previous slide? So this is kind of just to give you a dollar impact of what it would look like for a quarter's worth of sales tax if we were to change to a cents per gallon methodology. Remember that we share our sales tax with the towns and the villages. So when we reduce the sales tax that we bring in, we reduce what we pay out to the towns and villages as well. So I gave you what it would look like for a quarter based on 8 cents per gallon, 12 cents per gallon, and 16 cents per gallon. And what the net effect on our budget would be for that quarter. Now, there's no perfect crystal ball. It's based on an estimate of what gas sales have been in the past. Obviously, the dollar is different. The number of gallons could go down as people have less money to spend on gas. So there could be a whole ton of factors in there. So it's not an exact science, but it's a benchmark to go by.
Which means towns and villages will get less money from us, so they'll raise their budget, their
No.
taxes to make up for that. So does the citizen of Cayuga County really get a tax?
Well, and the other piece of it is,
Point, Andy.
yes, this is gonna go down, but right now our sales tax is up, so their 2022 payment is probably still gonna be okay. It's what happens in 2023 if we were to hit a recession and we don't have the tax on the gas.
And most of our sales tax increase, you got time to believe is inflationary, because everything costs so damn much.
Right, because obviously the gas price affects a lot of things, right? Because all that stuff has to get delivered to stores and
So are you saying that the risk is less through especially if we were to do it through 12/31/22, the risk would be less because we don't have a crystal ball. If we decided to do it through 12/31/22, we could at any point extend that?
I don't know, I mean, Fred, maybe you know, like, if they set a sunset, can you do another resolution?
You could extend it, but again, you'd have to have it start on the first day of a sales tax quarter.
Which is,
January 1, March 1,
okay,
June 1, September
but
1.
if we got close to the end of the year and is it 30 days before the new sales tax quarter starts, we have to,
It's technically 90, right?
It's 90 days.
Oh.
You request a waiver, and generally the practice has been from the state controller's office to grant that waiver.
we can wait till the end of December and then decide.
Well, if you're going to do the end of December, my suggestion is do it in the beginning of the sales tax quarter.
Which would be.
Because what the
12/1.
state controller's office is doing is making the decision to make a change on that day. Because what the law says is it ends and starts in the beginning of a sales tax quarter. And one day is not going to make that much difference.
Right, so it would have to be March 31st. I mean, March 1st, I'm sorry, it'd have to be March 1st because the previous one is 12/1.
Right,
So if you're trying to wait till the end of the year,
yeah,
they made an exception for this year only, that it can be up to 12/31 of
Right.
22. That is not a normal,
You could pass it through March.
right, for March 1st.
well, yeah, I mean, the other
Wanted
option
to.
that Mary Beth had mentioned is you could leave it open-ended and come back with a resolution to end it.
Okay.
That's the other thing that you can do if you wanted to do it the opposite way. And then you would monitor kind of what Andy's saying, how is the overall sales tax going? If the overall sales tax is still strong, because we haven't hit a recession
Yet.
Yeah,
So if I could, this gives me a little pause, so thank you. Has anyone, have you reached out to, and I realize it's probably not your prerogative to do so, but have you had any correspondence with towns and villages to see the potential impact on their budgets due to this?
no, because honestly, like, I mean, you might have a different feeling on this, but at least for the rest of this year, I think our sales tax is gonna be okay. And
Does that mean over what we
Over,
budgeted
yes.
significantly again, like millions?
yes,
Okay.
unless something drastic happens in the next few months, we're gonna be over again. And I mean, the
6
sales
million,
tax
like 6 million over, 5?
could be.
Again, though, the longer we go, the compounding of the issue to the towns and villages, is that fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, there's no crystal ball to say when that sales tax number, we hit that recession and it starts to go
I
down.
understand.
And then the towns are gonna get less, and then they're struggling to make their budget. And certainly I have no knowledge.
Right, but you're comfortable through 12/30.
Yeah, I feel, I mean, I don't know what you feel, but I feel comfortable through the end of this year. We're gonna be fine, sales tax.
Thank you.
Because if our sales tax is up, towns and villages are reaping the same.
Yes, yes. So I feel okay about that, but, you know, I mean, I have no idea when, I say when, because I think the recession is coming somewhere.
Agreed.
I don't think we can maintain this inflationary rate for very much longer.
Let's be honest, you take $10,000 away from the towns and they start squawking.
Yep.
They may not like to hear that, but we've heard it when we've taken little things away in the past.
I think
And
they,
their budgets are smaller, so it's tighter.
yeah, so this is something. They did 0.75 today, I do believe, the Fed
But that's
yesterday,
Yesterday.
largest,
a little.
largest, and since 30 years or something.
So that's just to kind of give you an idea of the net effect of, you know, what it's gonna do to towns and villages. Now, obviously, I didn't break it out by town and village. Each town and village gets a percentage of that number, so.
Good deal.
Thank you. Now, you make a good point. I don't remember who of you said it. A couple of concerns, things that we cannot foresee. And maybe this is a question for you, Fred, but if we see something really nasty coming down the pike, how quickly can we shut this down?
The change occurs at the beginning of a sales tax quarter. So you're
Even backing it?
backing out of it, yes.
Possible to shut it down.
So,
Shut down.
3, 6, 9, 12, 1. I also included, so a couple slides down, Amanda, I also included the home heating fuel sales tax. Mr. Petcher and I have had a couple discussions about this one, so this one's a little bit harder to pin down as far as what the residents' impact would be, but again, earliest implementation would be September 1st. Home heating fuel is different. It remains a percentage that's charged on the bill. So you could reduce from the 4% that we're currently at down to 3, 2, or 1%. You don't go to that like cents methodology. And again, would not affect the city of Auburn. As far as the next slide, oh, I'm sorry.
Just real quick, so again, separate resolution required to affect
Yep,
home heating.
yeah. So you would need to pass a resolution to either reduce or eliminate the sales tax on home heating fuel. Fred would submit that to the state. It would start on a
But percentage, not a cents thing.
right percentage.
Change the percentage. Okay.
And again, you have the option of sunset, but have to sunset that.
Was that in those numbers?
No, that first set of numbers is just motor fuel. The next slide has numbers on home heating fuel tax. So this breaks it down if you decided to charge 0%, 1%, 2%, or 3% sales tax on home heating fuel. It's a 3-year average of how much revenue in the Cayuga County was generated from home heating fuel sales. Obviously, that again is impacted by weather, cost, from direct supply. So those numbers could change. I took a 3-year average because I'm trying to like smooth out the temperature thing, but it's a best guess. So currently on that level of sales tax, we're bringing in $2,088,000 in sales tax. And then I put what we would get on the proposed sales tax, and then the effect to the towns and villages, and the net effect to the county budget.
Those figures are the reason that I backed off on the gas tax, basically, because to me, it's more important to give some relief to everybody. And we all need heat in the winter around here. And the driving, we have some control over, some, not total, but so that's my explanation. Okay, Lydia?
I just got 100 gallons of fuel oil delivered and paid over $600 for 100 gallons. So to put this into perspective for folks who don't understand what that means, I believe it's a 240 or 260 gallon tank. I took delivery of less than half of that. In the pit of winter, one tank, 240 or 260 gallons, lasts a month. So more than $1,200 to heat my home for 1 month. And that's not nice and cozy warm either.
Do you think, or I don't know, help me, are the towns and villages again included in the assumption that through the
Their sales tax would be reduced, so.
what I mean is, again, we're talking about an impact to their budgets.
Yeah, no conversation at this point. This is just preliminary.
Right, but do you, again, I guess specifically, do you again think that they would be able to manage their budgets due to the financial standpoint we're in right now, at least through the end of the quarter? Anything after that is.
So just so that we're all kind of on the same page, this slide is a full year where the previous slide was a quarter. Okay, so that impact is different. So I'm not sure, and again, I'm going to turn to you, like as far as changing the rate and then bringing it back up. I'm not sure. Obviously, it would be a resolution to bring the rate back up. So if you reduced it now and then went to bring it back up in the future, I don't know how easy it's going to be for the body to vote to bring it back up, but
No sunset date on this one?
you could,
You
right?
could put a sunset date, and if you're going to change it, you still have to make the change effective at the beginning or the end, beginning of a sales tax quarter.
So I
You
think,
still have the 90-day notice you have to provide, If it's less than the 90 days, you request a waiver. Waiver is generally granted, but it would take effect at the first day of the first sales tax quarter. So again, September, January, March, June.
So this one has to go for a full quarter. Am I understanding that correctly?
Both of them should go. for a
Both of
full
them.
quarter.
You gotta go.
Except the exception of the 12th, I'm sorry.
Right, I agree. That's what I think. Yeah.
One exception.
You could go 4 months instead of 3 this year on the motor fuel.
I have a question. If we're talking about heating our homes in the winter, not everybody uses fuel oil. Some people use propane. So
It's any home heating.
it's any, okay, that's what I wanted to make.
And so I guess from my perspective, to try to answer your question a little bit, like, so let's say you went to 1%, the reduction to the towns and villages, let's just use round numbers, is 800,000 for the year. So 1 quarter would be 200,000 and you would split it among all of the towns and villages.
Okay.
In that quarter in 2022, I think there's revenue still gonna meet their budget because unless they budgeted a crazy high amount, because our sales tax is way more than last year. I think it's up like 17.5% so far this year. So because we're up so much, I don't think that quarter is gonna hurt the towns and villages.
Thank you.
After that, I can't really guess.
I'd like to point out that several of our towns, speaking of the 4 towns, several of the towns have no property tax. They just have the county tax, but their own tax for their purposes has been eliminated by the sales tax over the years. You know, my towns, you know, even back years ago, we had the tax rate way down because of sales tax. You know, previous to, the county implementing it, we had to rely on property taxes. So that's got a big reduction in property taxes and will continue to do so. When I look at what the town of Genoa is getting now in sales tax, wow, I can only dream of that when I was supervisor, you know, so.
So you don't have to, the village, Genoa doesn't have to add a tax on because
No,
sales tax is performing
they have
so
enough
well.
money.
Okay.
I'm quite sure of that. I look at the budget every year when they come out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm not speaking for the town, I'm
No.
speaking of my observation of the town. Okay. Please continue. Sorry for the.
No, you're fine. So, I mean, that's pretty much where we are. I think, you know, I have numbers there and then you guys have to kind of think about what you would want in a resolution.
And the resolution has to be passed by when if we decide?
So we would have to submit it to the state by July 31st,
July 31st.
which would give us, we would have to request that 30-day waiver and hope that they approve it, which
They generally approve.
I'm hopeful that they will because that's been the practice.
But July 1st is the deadline date.
Mhm.
What would be the deadline for that?
Same thing, July 31st, so that we could implement by
If we
9/1.
do it in the winter, what I'd like to see done, and I'm suggesting it, would be to do the gas tax at this time and hold off until we're into the budget a little further, you know, our own budget, and then decide on what to do with the home heating fuel tax and hopefully eliminate it.
But she just said we had to do it by July 31st.
For September 1 implementation.
Oh,
So if you
okay.
wanted to implement on March 1st, then you could do it by the end of January.
Well, I think we'd want to do that by December 1st for home.
Yeah.
So we'd have to do that by when?
September 1st would probably. be
November.
good.
So if you wanted to implement by December 1st, you would have to have a resolution by October 31st.
If the body would, wants to do it, I'm fine with it. If you want to do it, both of them, you know, that might answer some questions, people who are griping about, you know, gasoline being so high while you're fueling oil, your heating fuel is going to be lower. So anybody in favor of that? Ready?
Definitely in favor of that. And I'm also in favor of an earlier of the September 1st implementation. I think many people think of October and November as the beginning of their home heating months.
I want to say one thing that Hans probably won't want me to say, but the home heating fuel, I think, is a little different in that I don't think we can pick an expiration date. So if you want to bring that tax back, you're going to pass a resolution to bring the tax back.
I want to bring it back. I want to,
I know, I just want to make sure everybody understands here, the two things are not exactly the same. This is very special legislation that came with this tax cap. The state was kind of doing to address this issue. This is a longer stemming, concern, I guess I want to use the words to say, if you're looking at the home heating fuel. So you have to, put yourself in that position. Do you want to go to zero? Do you want to drop a percentage? It's going to be it may be a permanent change if you change this home heating fuel. And so you should maybe give it a little bit more thought about the implication. That doesn't mean at all that I don't think you should do it. Okay, they have reasons that we have taxes and reasons that optional taxes, like we're saying, that's why there's no sales tax on food, because people don't believe that that is an optional luxury item. So we don't even have sales tax on it. So if you believe that this should be changed, because you will have to enact raising it again. So you just really have to think about that separate them in your heads, I think, to make your decision.
anybody else?
And just one thing, with the Fed raising that 3/4 of a point today, we got to be careful. People are spending money right now, but when their credit cards come due and it's much higher, the revenue is going to be going down, I think, the spending revenue. So we got to remember that.
I just quoted Summers, I just read about comment on the national economy. May has already been a slower month, declined significantly from the previous months, in revenues nationwide. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Just one last question. Did we ever have we always had this tax in place? 4%?
To my knowledge, yes, but I can't.
Well, the state did away with it back years ago, and the counties at that time had the option to continue or change it. Cayuga County chose not to do away with it, but the state did away with their 4%.
So the state doesn't take any sales tax on this right now?
Heating fuel.
But the county, I think, has, correct?
Pardon me?
The county has taken sales tax on it.
Yeah.
All along.
Video.
One thing I was interested in, and I'm going kind of off topic and probably going to be a little unpopular, which I guess I'm okay with that. I was thinking a tax rebate to our county residents would be something. And I'd like to reach out to you and talk about that a little bit to see what it would look like, and maybe how that would help the people who actually live in our county, because people driving through our county get gas. And that's great. We want them to benefit from spending money here. However, I'd love a bigger impact to our county residents.
And I think, I mean, if I can talk a little bit about our conversation, I probably thought a little bit too hard about this whole process and the revenue impacts, but in my head, I'm battling, does the price of home heating fuel go down if we drop the sales tax, kind of like with the motor fuel, right? Like, does that end up going down or does it end up staying the same? I'm not really sure.
Having more profit for the.
Right. And then I'm like, well, would it be more beneficial for us to keep the sales tax revenue strong so that we can keep the property tax lower? But then if we're keeping the property tax lower, we're only helping homeowners, we're not helping renters. And I mean, I don't know the outside communities as well. I know the city, and the city has a lot of rental properties, and those are the people that probably need the help the most. So I don't know that I guess in my head, I didn't know that there's an easy answer to help everybody. So each thing kind of helps a different group, I guess.
So Lydia has actually pointed the rebate. That's the true reason why we know the gas companies are not going to raise the price to make the difference up. How would a rebate work? I know that you got the concern of the renters, but logistically, could it work? You didn't have renters, could it work? Is there other counties have entertained the rebate? Because once we find out other counties have done it,
Yeah.
it'll be easier to answer the rental
Right.
situation.
I mean, I can reach out through the county finance directors group and see about a rebate if anybody's done anything like that. I'm not aware of anything, but I could certainly ask.
Thank you.
Can I get a copy of this, Andy?
Yes, yep, I sent it to Amanda. I thought she was
Okay, I haven't.
folder, but maybe not.
Yeah, it's in the docs.
So
I guess just as my final point, I think we all know that our residents are swimming in taxes. Home taxes, sales taxes on, grocery items, department store items, home heating, fuel, gas.
Income
fuel.
taxes.
This is an opportunity now. What will we do?
Anybody else? have-
any,
So with what Heidi just said, that's great for the county. They're flushing money, apparently, is what I'm hearing, but the towns and villages, our budgets are so tight and have depended on the sales tax.
I don't know that. I
I'm
don't know.
speaking on behalf of what I know from our towns and villages and how they budget. Maybe it's different than Genoa, but they budgeted to keep down those property taxes and so forth by tweaking every little bit against that sales tax. So if the sales tax goes away and we haven't surveyed the towns and villages, it just means the property taxes are going to go up here, or we decide what services do we want to cut.
Yeah, I think it's.
Want a real savings, you got to cut services.
I think it's it's something, like I said, I think I thought about it every which way and
Yeah.
there's no easy answer to any of this, to be honest. So, because you're not gonna help everybody. And there is the impact to the towns and villages, and we can't impact the city residents in the same way through this. So, there's a lot of factors in there and I don't know that there's an easy answer. And honestly, if I go back, and it's been a few years, obviously, because I've been here 3.5, but back to my auditing days, I audited a lot of those towns and villages, and every one of them was so unique in the way that they budgeted and where they were cash flow wise and stuff that I think you'd have to talk to each one of them to really have an understanding of what that would do to them.
as Abraham Lincoln said years ago, you can't please all the people all of the time. So
No.
it's, we can go back and forth on everything, but
I don't disagree, Hans. It's just a matter of where we shift in the taxes to.
like I said, 2 towns managed to do without any town taxes. And the tax rates, I just got the sheet for town taxes, range anywhere from 0 to 7, 8, I put the sheet somewhere else, 7, 8 per thousand, so there's quite a discrepancy in town tax rates. Terrible discrepancy. I can't see why it's that great, so.
Depends on the services.
Anything further?
Nope.
Mary Beth?
Unless anybody has anything else.
And any comments on that, or?
Thank you, Mary Beth. Thank you. Linda.
Thank you.
Okay. Mrs. Dempsey, Jennifer. Excuse me.
I don't know. Right.
You have my report in front of you. And I will just point out that I do have a resolution on tonight to authorize the purchase of tax delinquent parcels. So this is in addition to the ones that were passed in May. These ones I brought through their specific legislator for their district to make sure that they want to bring it forward. And I'll just say these ones in particular, I felt that there were potential service issues where I felt it was probably the best practice to allow the repurchase of those properties. So I don't really have anything else to add if anyone has any questions.
So I'm assuming that happened.
It's on the resolution. So if it passes, then yes.
The one that you and Lydia, well,
Yes, there are
okay.
two additional properties.
And if I can say thank you very much, I think the hard work that you did to save some folks from losing part of what they value was amazing. You did a great job with that, and thank you.
I'd like to echo the same thing for the work that you did for that gentleman, my district also. Appreciate it very much.
Mr. Chair, you want to move that now?
Yep. That's what I was looking for.
I'll move WM2.
Any discussion? All those in favor? If not, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No one carried. Thank you, Jennifer. Mr. Dempsey.
Yes, unless anybody has any specific questions. My report is in there.
Any questions for David? Thank you, David. Currently none.
We're continuing on with the auctions, the online auctions and the foreclosures and so on, as stated in my report. But if anybody has any specific questions, feel free to reach out to me.
Thanks, Dave.
And as you know, Hans, we had a specific meeting yesterday. We'll be reporting on that next month for the specific changes we discussed yesterday.
Okay. Very good. Thank you, Dave. Going back to Mary Beth Leeson, anything further?
No, you have my report, so unless anybody has questions.
Any questions? If not, we'll go on. Diane first, please.
Hi. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, you have my report.
Any questions? Hearing none, thank you, Diane.
Thank you.
Guess we're down to resolutions already. Okay, I'd like to do ways and means, WM 1 and 2 together as a bundle.
Already did.
We just did two.
Already did too.
That was when Jenny brought it.
Yep, I was just looking at the numbers. Okay, number 1, please.
I'll move it.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Not all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, no? Carried, thank you. Now comes a tough one. What do we want to do? I'll just open for discussion and
Well, I'll move it for discussion.
I'll second it.
Ed, well, okay. It is, currently it's blank, the numbers are blank, so
Right.
that's why I didn't.
Understood.
Okay, now I guess we get to discuss how much we want to do, so. If any. Floor is open.
Well, I'd like to reduce it, and then when the towns start. And I'm not trying to be, an ass to the towns in plain English, but when they start complaining to us about their budgets. The gas stations that are in their towns that keep throwing us under the bus that we've done nothing. Can go and discuss it with their leaders of their towns. As to what they're doing for them, seeing they probably won't be in favor of this. Because, I could personally don't care who wants to drag me down. I think most of you know that by now, but I think it's ridiculous that we're the ones being dragged down for this. Because it's a global, so to speak, discussion that should be had with towns, because it's going to affect them. So when their gas stations in their towns want to blame us for everything, let's see what their town leaders have to say also. So they want us to do something, let's do something.
What kind of rate? Go back to the slides there.
8, 12, or 16, I think it was, wasn't it?
Yeah, 12 or 16.
And what did we say Wayne County, Oswego was 12, what was Wayne? 8.
Onondaga, I think is 16. And I believe Onondaga is 16.
No, they're 12.
But they're 12.
Yeah.
In terms of
Which is
contiguous.
the gas station problem. Basically.
And the lower we have the cap,
That's
the
what's
less revenue we'll get. Right. Obviously, so if we go to 8, we'll have less.
Right.
And I guess I don't represent towns and villages, but is there any inclination that people would want to discuss this with them before since we have till July to do this, or just get it over with? I'm just questioning.
Well, I should mention, the county does have an option to claim all of the sales tax. We can tell the towns to go to heck. I've been there and fought it from the other side, okay, back years ago, so.
Mr. Chair, I guess I would like to discuss it with the towns further and the villages, but if this body's pleasure is to move forward tonight, and I'm understanding you correctly, I would support whatever, including the max, only for the fuel with the provision of a sunset We don't know what we're getting into come next fiscal or whatever next year. So that's,
Mr. Chair, I agree with Elaine and Chris. I don't have gas station per se in my area. I have the Native American gas station. They don't pay tax, so it doesn't affect them. But I would also like to discuss it with my township, and if I'm gonna enact legislation that cuts their budget, I'd like them to have a little bit of say. And you know, again, I agree with Chris that, you know, if this is something that we want to support. But I think it's only fair that we, and right, that we do that.
I just happened to come through there earlier. It's $4.60 a
Mr.
gallon,
Chairman,
It's pretty cheap.
40 cents less.
if we're gonna do this discussion thing, not to put you two back on the spot, but I think we should invite the town supervisors and whatnot to see. That way, no offense to anyone here, that way we're not all getting something wrong or giving a different message, you know what I mean? Let them come in, and if they want to be involved in this and see the concern, and let them see a short presentation from them again and say, what do you want us to do? Because if you got a gas station in your town that's screaming at us, you know, and I'm saying it because I got one that's all over Facebook, signs in their, I sent it to you guys, I think, signs in their front window of their gas station, you know, we're just horrible people because we haven't dropped the gas tax like everybody else does. Well, I don't think anybody understands this, because when they say dropping the gas tax, we're not really eliminating it.
The main cost.
Yeah, I think they think we are, but I don't think they also have a clue about the town budget. So how would their stations be affected by the town that they're in when they say, well, geez, you just took away X amount of dollars of our tax revenue, so now we're gonna jack your taxes. So I think that's something that if we can do it, we obviously probably can't do it for June because we're only a week away from, not even a week away from June's meeting. But if we could do it for this meeting in July, so that we could still do it before the July 31st. And hey, if you show up, great. If you don't, then don't scream at us for what we do.
I think the other thing we could give you, because I think it's kind of getting lost in this, is that you're looking at what they're losing. And Mary Beth said, look at what they're gaining.
Yeah.
So we could put that on a slide. So net, they're all going to be ahead still, at least probably through the end of the year. And I get it, the towns and villages are on a, you know, they're on a different calendar a lot of times, but you know, you're in a
Towns are the same, villages. Oh, I'm
you're in a no-win situation, in that you get to levy the taxes to increase them up or down, and either the residents will be upset if they don't do it, and the towns are gonna lose. But maybe if the picture looks better, that really we're all gonna still be up, even if we lose a small amount, and you do cap it in December 31st. There's not a huge risk then to the towns, the villages of losing anything. They're still gonna be ahead of the game, just not as much.
So I guess my recommendation would be, if everybody agrees, to have whoever, you guys, Dave, whoever, invite the town representatives to be here for July's Ways and Means meeting.
I think that's a great idea. I do.
If they come, they come. If they don't,
I think we have two resolutions ready, one at 8 cents and one at 12 cents. So we make up our mind or fill in the number.
yeah.
And the date stays.
Like I said at the
31st.
very beginning, you know, I'm not against this. I just, there's trickle down impacts that
Everybody needs to know.
we should share with them.
And we're also gonna be into our snow removal season as well. And costs are still, they haven't finished yet, going up. So, you know, I think it's just prudent that we have some discussion with the towns too.
I agree with Andy and Jim. I think that it's important for them to be here, obviously know how it affects them, but also will get them insight on the fact that it may not change the price, because you know, Jim just said right around what the price, but perhaps they can hold their local gas stations accountable. So when, you know, I don't know what checks and balances they can use. However, they will, if they don't see any decrease, they can possibly advocate for their people there. Because right now, I'm with Andy. I mean, they make us to be the bad guy, the bad guy people. So I just think that's a good idea. I agree with.
Any further comments?
Yes.
I agree with 100%, Hans. I think that's the right idea. If somebody could say something different to one of their town supervisors, and then that other supervisor can tell somebody else that, hey, I heard it differently. I think if it comes from Lynn and Mary Beth, and they hear it right here at the next Ways and Means, then they have no bitch. That's the way I feel.
And they can give their input as to when they see those numbers and go, whoa, we're gonna lose that much tax revenue. So now what are you gonna do to your town people and businesses and whatnot if we do?
Jim?
Just on that same point, maybe this is from Mary Beth, do we have like a percentage of how we break that up so they would know? That might be even more useful.
Yeah, we can easily do that.
If the town of Victory or the town of Sterling do, listen, you always get out of our 15 districts and now we're 28. If they know what that percentage is, you could almost give them a chart. You could almost run a chart based on each town and village.
I do have that, so I can break it down.
If I can just further that to a second question, if that's something we can get to them before they come to the presentation, they might be able to look at their budget and kind of get a better understanding. And then also you would talk about the increase in the sales tax. So yeah, it looks like you're losing this much, but we're getting this, it may surpass it. And the sunset thing, I agree with.
And one more thing we got to discuss is the sunset time. Are we going to do this till December 1st or December 31st? I think we should discuss that now so it can go on the resolution.
Well, let's start off with December 31st as a sunset.
That's what I thought.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, that's what I thought we were talking
I
about.
think that's a good number.
I would agree with that if we're gonna consider looking at.
At least.
Right, so I'm assuming we have an agreement to bring them in next month.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, yes.
Yep.
Any opposition to,
And we give them a little prep paperwork.
if they all come, it'll be a crowd, so.
Hans? Can you speak?
Want me to bring some treats by Sarah? No?
So do we have to table this or how do we move?
Bakery.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Basically.
Famous one town.
I'll make the resolution if I get recognized. Or make a motion.
Table. Is it a second?
I'm sorry, but
Motion to table to next
Table
week's
this
meeting.
until next month.
I'll second.
Ways and Means.
Mr. Petra? There's a motion to table it till next month's Ways and Means meeting. Just wanted to be clear.
that's what you said, right?
That's
That's what we want, I
I'll
guess.
second it.
Okay, everybody clear on it? All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Those opposed? Tabled.
So just to be clear though, are you?
Yes, that's what I was just going to
I'm
say.
gonna get together to send to
I'll
the,
work with Mary Beth and Lynn and Amanda and Sheila. Send the information out to all the village and town supervisors before the next meeting and invite them here. If that's okay with everybody.
and
that's a great.
starting next month, you said we're going to Wednesday,
Yes.
just so everybody
Yes.
knows that.
Oh, yeah.
Ways and Means will be Wednesdays from now on, okay? Okay,
Starting next month.
starting next month.
Okay.
Last later.
Okay, well, thanks for bringing it up. I forgot about it. Okay, I guess we're Ways and Means, Health and Human Services next.
Just for point of clarification, Amanda sent the revised July schedule out and it's still on the 21st. So she needs to move it to the 20th.
Yes, I'll be doing that.
Okay. All right. It was still listed as Thursday in July.
Can I ask what the reason for the change was? Can I ask what the reason for the change was?
Why you changing?
Why are we changing it?
It's an inconvenience to me. A couple other people have asked.
Okay.
Okay, Health and Human Services, I believe.
Yep. Health and Human Services had 6 resolutions that went through committee. All of them passed. I'd be happy to bundle HH1 through HH6 or separate any out.
Second the bundle.
Any further discussion? Any questions?
We have a first, we have to have a
Sorry?
first, don't we?
I thought she said I offered it as a bundle,
Okay.
She first did it, okay.
Okay.
right? You offered it as a bundle, so. Yeah, thank
Any further discussion, any questions? Not all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Thank you. Government ops?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Government Ops has 3 resolutions that have been through committee. So at this time, I would offer 1 through 3.
Move it. Second, whatever.
Yeah, thank you.
If you're moving in, I'm second.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay,
Jim's got me all messed up now.
I didn't catch that. I apologize. I know.
okay. So any discussion on government ops, 1 through 3? Not all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you. Carried again. Planning?
Nope.
No, I got one more, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
That one I called you about.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so, I'd like, at this time, I'd like to offer GO4, due to some scheduling conflicts and some issues. They didn't have the time to, bring it to government operations, but this is for a driver, for the Veteran Service Agency. As I understand, the money is available within the budget, but they need a second driver to transport people to Syracuse. Perfect. Any questions can be directed to Mr. Swab, but as I understand, they have the money in the budget. And it's necessary to provide a second driver.
Sooner than later.
Yeah.
I'll move it.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Kevin, you want to say something or?
No, it's just, we need the 2 drivers to be able to alternate the schedule. Sometimes these drivers work long days. And so we actually have one, if we don't get another driver, we're gonna have 1 driver working full time. So we had a driver with a medical issue, it was right after meeting, or I would have brought it to that. And this just gives us the ability to fill the position sooner rather than later instead of waiting a month. So I would appreciate it.
Any questions for Kevin? If not, we're back to the resolution. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Carried also. Planning. Who's in charge of planning today?
Vice Chair.
He's excused. Brian is
Vice-
the co-chair and he's left.
You want me to run them, Mr. Chair?
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'll offer planning 1 through 4 as a bundle. They've been through committee and were supported.
I'll second it.
Discussion on planning. 1 through 4. Not all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Carried also. Public Works. There you go, Andy.
Public Works has 6 resolutions. They've been through committee with and all passed, so I'll just offer them all as a bundle.
The second,
I'll second that.
okay, any discussion, any questions? Not all those in favor, 1 through 6. Public Works, aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Carried, thank you. Additional and public safety, Mark.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. JPS has a total of 9 resolutions. I would like to bundle JP 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, and 8, separating 6 and 9.
The second,
Second.
any questions, comments? Not all those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Carried so far.
JP6, it was defeated. JP6 was a halt resolution. It was brought up at Judicial and Public Safety. It was defeated 3-3. I would like to, I'll bring it up later at a full-fledged meeting for consideration. At this, so we'll just let that one go as far as I know. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, bring it up at the full edge.
JP9 is an ARPA request. It was not brought up at JPS because we hadn't had we had the briefing that night, and from the EMO folks, And ARPA request came out the next day. The ARPA request was delivered to all the legislators. I believe most of you have a copy of it on your desk currently. The ARPA fund request is for the scene support rehab vehicle, and a resolution was provided. That's why it was added late, or that was one of the amendments. So I would offer that
Is there a
for
second?
consideration.
Second.
Okay, discussion? Any comments?
This was the presentation we had and.
Yes, ma'am.
From Messina.
Yep, from Angela Messina and that.
Okay, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Nobody opposed? Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Have one left. Adjourn.
Oh.
Everybody wanted to go home.
I don't have anything left.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor, aye? Thank you all.
Thank you.
Just so you know,
Thank you.
Dave Longley from Channel 9, my wife